Have you ever extended your hand to do a good deed, only to be met with cold indifference, a turned back, or betrayal, leaving you to ask yourself, why do I keep treating this world with kindness when all I get back is pain? Is the law of karma even real, or is being a good person just a waste of energy? We suffer because our ego is deeply trapped in a linear, transactional mindset. We think that if we give a piece of bread to person A, then person A must be the very one to return a sweet fruit to us. But the universe does not operate on a straight line. It does not run like a grocery store keeping a rigid ledger. Karma is an invisible, multi-dimensional matrix of pure energy. The Buddha taught that pure, selfless love is a frequency that can never disappear. Sometimes you plant a seed of goodwill in one soil, and the receiver might forget it, or they may simply lack the capacity to repay you. But do not lose faith. The universe records that energy and mobilizes a complete stranger from a completely different area of your life to extend their hand and rescue you when you hit rock bottom. You give at one place, but you will receive at another. To restore your faith in this beautiful, interconnected reality, quiet your mind and listen closely to a profound Zen story about the cosmic domino effect of compassion. On a freezing winter night in a remote rural town, a brutal blizzard swept across the landscape, erasing the roads beneath thick layers of snow. Stranded on the shoulder of a desolate highway was an elderly woman named Sarah. She stood shivering uncontrollably next to her old car, staring at a completely flat tire. For over 2 hours, dozens of luxury cars sped past her. The drivers saw her, but the fear and suspicion of the modern world made them step on the gas and flee. They feared being scammed. They feared trouble. They feared the dangers lurking in the dark. Sarah was on the verge of giving up, her body beginning to freeze in the sub-zero temperatures. Right then, a battered, dented old pickup truck pulled over. Stepping out of the vehicle was a young man named Brian. He looked worn out. His clothes were threadbare, and Sarah felt a sudden flash of fear looking at his rugged appearance. But Brian offered a warm, reassuring smile. He told her to step inside his truck where the heater was running, while he braved the blinding storm to change her tire. After nearly an hour of struggling in the dark, Brian's hands were scraped, bruised, and completely numb from the biting cold. But the tire was finally changed. Sarah was overwhelmed with gratitude. She pulled out a thick wad of cash from her purse, everything she had, and tried to hand it to him. But Brian shook his head, gently pushing her hand away. "No need, ma'am. I didn't help you for money. My mother always taught me, if you want to repay me, just pass this kindness on to the next person who needs it." Sarah thanked him with tears in her eyes. The two parted ways without ever knowing each other's names or how to stay in touch. They were just two strangers, intersecting for a brief moment at a quiet turn of fate. A few miles down the road, Sarah stopped at a small, weathered diner to warm up and get some hot soup. The place was faded and empty. Walking out to serve her was a young waitress who was heavily pregnant, nearly 8 months along. Despite her visible exhaustion, her swollen feet, and the physical strain of standing all day, the young woman greeted Sarah with a genuinely warm smile. She carefully poured her hot water, wiped the table, and served the soup with absolute care. Looking into the tired but loving eyes of the waitress, Sarah suddenly realized, this world, despite its harshness, still keeps little sparks alive to warm human hearts. She remembered the words of the young man from the highway. Pass this kindness on to the next person. When Sarah finished her meal, she quietly paid with a large bill and slipped out into the snowy night before the waitress could bring back her change. When the young waitress returned to the table, Sarah was already gone. But underneath the cloth napkin, the waitress froze in disbelief. There lay a stack of cash worth 3 months of her rent, along with a note hastily scribbled on a napkin. A stranger rescued me in the blizzard tonight, and he told me to pass the love on to the next person. This is for the little angel about to be born. Trust that this world loves you. Late that night, the young waitress returned to her cramped, cold, rented apartment after an exhausting shift. She walked into the dim bedroom and looked at her husband, who was fast asleep on their old bed. His face was drawn, his brow furrowed with the heavy anxiety of the upcoming hospital bills for the delivery next week. She gently lay down beside him, slipped the stack of cash into his hands, and wrapped her arms around his tired shoulders. Tears of pure relief flooded her eyes, warming the dark room. She whispered into her husband's ear, "Everything is going to be okay, my love. The universe heard our prayers. You don't have to worry anymore. Brian." Brian startled awake. He stared blankly at the cash in his hands, then read the words scribbled on the napkin his wife held out. The moment his eyes hit the sentence, "A stranger rescued me in the blizzard tonight," his entire body went numb. His hands, still stained with grease and covered in raw scratches from changing that tire in the freezing cold, began to tremble. And he broke down. The tears of a man carrying the silent, crushing weight of a family finally spilled over, releasing weeks of suppressed exhaustion into the quiet night. Brian walked over to the window, watching the blizzard outside slowly clear, giving way to a sky full of bright, silent stars. He held his wife and his unborn child tightly against his chest. He realized a shocking, transcendent truth. The mountain of life had never forgotten him. In the exact moment he stood in the freezing storm to help an elderly stranger without asking for a single dime, he had no idea he was actually protecting his own family at home. That energy didn't travel far. It simply borrowed the hands of another stranger to return to his doorstep, lighting up his home on the darkest night of winter. In the stillness of that small room, they finally understood. Kindness is the only currency that grows the more you give it away, and it is the invisible thread that weaves every lonely soul on this earth into one beautiful tapestry. We suffer because our ego is deeply trapped in a linear, transactional mindset. We think that if we give a piece of bread to person A, then person A must be the very one to return a sweet fruit to us. But the universe does not operate on a straight line. It does not run like a grocery store keeping a rigid ledger. Karma is an invisible, multidimensional matrix of pure energy. The Buddha taught that pure, selfless love is a frequency that can never disappear. Sometimes you plant a seed of goodwill in one soil, and the receiver might forget it. Or they may simply lack the capacity to repay you. But do not lose faith. The universe records that energy and mobilizes a complete stranger from a completely different area of your life to extend their hand and rescue you when you hit rock bottom. You give at one place, but you will receive at another. To restore your faith in this beautiful, interconnected reality, quiet your mind, and listen closely to a profound Zen story about the cosmic domino effect of compassion. The story of Brian, Sarah, and the waitress is not a mere fairy tale about good luck. It is a spectacular, thunderous demonstration of the invisible yet absolutely precise operation of the compassionate mind and the universe's multidimensional law of reflection. Modern society teaches us to live behind armor. We are conditioned to view strangers with suspicion, to guard ourselves against any threat of being taken advantage of. And so, after extending kindness only to be met with indifference, betrayal, or forgetfulness, the cup of your soul begins to crack. You become exhausted, you doubt your own goodness, and you silently ask, is this world even worth being kind to anymore? But my friend, this universe is an infinite ocean of energy, completely without borders. Every gentle thought, every warm touch you extend, is actually a pure stone cast into a perfectly still lake. It immediately creates concentric ripples expanding outward in all directions, touching distant shores that your physical eyes will never see. You do not need to stand in one place keeping score, waiting for the recipient to fall to their knees in gratitude. When you emit a pure frequency of energy, devoid of demands, conditions, or hidden motives, that energy automatically travels the earth. It processes through the hearts of absolute strangers, accumulating into a circulating current of blessings, and finds its way back to rescue you at the exact moment you are stranded and helpless. We often feel weary and want to close our hearts tightly, simply because we are trapped by two subtle psychological distortions. Distortion 1, the transactional trap. When the ego wants to direct karma, the human ego operates like a calculating merchant. It demands that everything be settled immediately on a single straight line. I gave you help, so you owe me gratitude and a return. When the receiver turns away, or is simply too poor to return the favor, your mind immediately rings with the pain of an emotional wound. You slam the door of your heart shut, becoming cold and cynical, labeling life as bitter and ungrateful. But you have forgotten a supreme truth in the Dharma. Karma does not operate on a straight line between two individuals. It operates in a grand circle of the universe. Look back at the winter canyon that night. Every single one of them gave from a state of selflessness and anonymity. Brian had no idea who the woman was, and Sarah could never guess the waitress was the wife of the savior who rescued her. The circulating current of karma connected them perfectly in the dark. If Brian had let his ego speak that night, I'm busy, I'm poor, there's nothing in it for me to stand in this blizzard, he would have manually cut off the flow of his own kindness. And as a result, at his own home, his wife and child would have faced the crushing weight of hospital bills in complete isolation. When you stop calculating and measuring with life, the universe will automatically fill the cup of your soul through the most mystical means. Giving in one place and receiving in another, that is the absolute justice of destiny. Distortion 2, the illusion of scarcity, believing you are too small to give. The second distortion is the most primal fear of human beings. We believe we must be wealthy, hold a high status, or possess a massive surplus of assets before we have the right to help anyone else. You look at your empty pockets and close your heart out of self-doubt, turning yourself into a lonely, isolated island. But look closely at the story. Young Brian had no money. He only had a dented truck, threadbare clothes, and a pair of hands willing to bear the biting cold to change a tire. The waitress held no social status. She only had a hospitable smile, a glass of warm water, and deep attentiveness for a mud-stained old woman in the middle of winter. What they gave away had absolutely nothing to do with material value that can be weighed or measured. What they gave was their pure presence and compassion. The frequency of compassion is the most potent healing and transforming force in this universe. A single word of genuine encouragement when someone wants to give up, a look of understanding for a lost soul, or a glass of warm water in times of hardship. These are all sparks capable of lighting up an entire winter night. Your small action today can completely shift a stranger's reality, inspiring them to live more generously, so that they, in turn, pass 10 more good deeds to the next person. You are never small. You are a sacred link, a primary relay station in the awakening domino effect of this entire world. Living mindfully in the spirit of Buddhism is not actually something lofty or detached from reality. It is simply learning to live and give just like the natural breath of your body. When you draw in a breath of cool air and then gently exhale a warm breath back out, do you ever stand there demanding that the surrounding air immediately return a matching breath back to you? No. You give your breath away completely naturally, unconditionally, because deep down inside, you have absolute faith that oxygen is always present in this vast space to nourish and shelter your life. Align yourself with the infinite flow of the universe and turn your life into a broadcasting station of selfless, unattached kindness. As you walk through this life and see someone stranded and crying out for help, do not waste time letting your rational brain step in to calculate, asking, "What will I get out of this? Do they deserve my help?" Instead, let the compassionate heart speak first, asking, "How can I soothe their pain in this very moment?" Offer a genuine compliment to lift a spirit that is falling apart. Dedicate your full, unjudging presence to listen to a lonely soul, or perform an act of warmth in the freezing cold. Do it all with a mind that is completely empty, non-attached, and not waiting for a single nod of gratitude. The good seed you sow today might, by chance, fall upon a dry, barren rock. The person who receives your kindness, due to their own wounded or selfish ego, may turn their back, forget you, or even betray your goodness. When that bitter moment happens, please do not rise in anger, and do not rush to slam the doors of your soul shut in bitterness. Simply smile gently and place an unshakable faith in the absolute exquisite operation of the wheel of karma. Humans may forget your kindness, but the universe never miscalculates. The pure, clean energy you emitted into space that day has been fully recorded in the ledger of destiny. It is not lost. It is simply transforming into an ambient current of blessings circulating through time and space, moving through the hearts of strangers. And eventually, that current will find its way back to your doorstep. It will wrap around, shelter, and rescue you, or the loved ones you constantly worry about, at the exact moment you hit an absolute dead end, on the darkest winter night of your life, when you least expect it. When you dare to give without remembering, the universe takes over and will never forget to protect you. If you are ready to trust the cosmic echo of your heart and choose to give without remembering, leave a comment below with 2 simple words: kindness echoes. Let this be your personal alignment with the infinite flow of the universe,